So, I guess some of you might be curious. It's not super important, but some people have already asked me why would I do another YouTube channel, or why would I do a YouTube channel? This is my first one, and why go to all this effort, especially if it's just me screwing around with stuff and whatnot. And to be frank, it's kind of for my own sanity. I not to get too deep in the weeds about it. Sometime last year, I kind of lost it, to be honest. I had a lot of stress at work. I had a lot of stress um, at home. I was dealing with, the year before that I got married, so then I had to move across the state, and it was chaos. It was just pure chaos. And as a result, I lost a lot of creative outputs. I've been working on writing my own sci-fi now for going on 10 years. I mean, when are you going to get around to that? And it's still something I want to do, but I don't know when that's going to happen. It takes too much energy for me to go to work and do all the stuff I got to do every day. Um, to do that. And that was kind of just one of those things is I wanted to, but it's just never going to happen. Um, so, I mean, as a result, I started doing tech projects and whatnot. Even when I went to college, IT is kind of what got me through that time. I was in a pretty rough mental state and whatnot, and this is what got me through is tinkering with projects. Like this piece of crap. These laptops for days, because they don't take up a lot of space. They don't cost a lot of money. In some cases, they're free, and they just need thrown back together with a few spare parts. Um, and they're fun. And you get to tinker with Linux along the way. And, I'm one of those people that I'm not an evangelist. This is not. This is by all means not something that I'm going to sit here and say, oh, well, you should use FOSS software. You should use whatever the hell works for you. That's always been my mantra, behind this stuff, or my thing, is you need to use what works for you. If you're a Mac person and you like your Mac, use your Mac. I've got one in the other room. I use it at our church here because they use Apple products to do all their audio and streaming equipment. So I got to keep up with the times. I used to use Windows, and to some degree at work, I have to use Windows at work because the work provided laptop is Windows. And I'm not going to mess with their image. If they want me to use that to do my job, so be it. Um, but at home, I started messing with Linux, about a handful of years ago. And, I'd love to go into a bigger rant about that. Not necessarily a rant, just kind of more of a this is how I came into Linux kind of thing. The long story short of it is I was in the middle of college. Windows 10 comes out, and holy crap, that was a disaster when it came out. And I had some older machines at the time, I admit. Um, One of them was the dreaded Gateway laptop, which I'd love to do a horror stories of clip of some point. Um, it was just a bad laptop. I appreciated my parents for getting me something for college, but damn. That whole thing did not turn out right at all, and I feel so bad for them for that. It is what it is. So, and at that time, I had had a Toshiba laptop that grenaded itself. I had that Gateway that grenaded itself as well within a year. It's dead. And so I had a Dell Latitude D610 that I bought as my. It was the second machine I'd ever bought at our university surplus store. Um, the first one was an Optiplex 760 or 755 small. It was like the skinny ones. And I'd ran Windows 7 on those for years. But what got me into it was Windows 10 came out and I was like, oh man, that's just bad. I didn't care for it on my Inspiron at all. And I dual booted with Ubuntu that year. It was Ubuntu 1404, I think. It was either 1404 or 1604. It was the Ubuntu Unity stuff. Not a fan of Unity. Still am not a fan of Unity. It's a little nostalgic because it was my first full-time trying to use Linux. I ended up going back to Linux in about 2016 or so, or 2017. I think it was around that time because I actually got into Linux Mint. We needed a machine at the IT office to wipe hard drives because you've got drives all the time, and I've got some at my feet here too. They're just dead. I mean, they're just dead. Or they need wiped, and so they can be resent to customer machines so we can re-image. It was before we were running on SSDs. So we needed a machine for that, and we'd been using a really old G-parted CD that my manager had brought in, running an ancient Linux kernel. I want to say it was kernel 2 or something like that. Like, it was just old. Stopped working with these newer NVMe devices at some point, and then we just couldn't wipe drives anymore. And then that netbook we had to load it up on died, so we needed a machine. So I pulled one out of our salvage pile, and we put Linux Mint on it because my manager at the time was big on seeking alternatives. We were all Windows elitists at the time. I would call us elitists. We used to hate on Mac so hard. I still do. It's not for me. I use it. It's functional. But if I had to daily drive it, I'd be a very unhappy panda. And a very sad panda. So that's just kind of one of those things. And so we went through series of tests, essentially, that forced us to go in and, use an alternative operating system for a month. The longest, hardest one for me was Apple, because we had a lot of Windows proprietary software that we had to deal with that didn't work on Mac, and so we had to use a Windows PC as a remote-in device. But once we had that headless PC, our brains just went, like, we don't even need Windows anymore, We're just sitting here going, oh, I could run anything. And so we kitted up an Optiplex 790 with Linux Mint. I think it was 17 at the time. And like I said, my dates could be skewed a little bit. I'm just spitballing at this point. This is not scripted in any way. This is just me just chatting for a little bit. And from there, I daily drove that for a month, got in trouble with the IT manager because it's not secure and needs to stay outside of the firewall, so we ignored him. And we proceeded to plug it into the network. And of course, nothing bad ever happened. But we figured out how to do the Cisco VPN. We figured out how to integrate with remote desktop so we could remote assist with people. Like, it was great. And they still had the machine when I left, but it's been years now, and I'm guessing that machine's been recycled at this point. But that was how I got into Linux Mint. And, I distro hopped for a number of years. And again, I would love to go into a video of all these other distros and my thoughts, because some people like that. And it's more than just some people like it. Some people need to hear validation from their distro or validation that they did something right. And I'm kind of one of those people too. I've always sought out other YouTubers and whatnot to watch to be like, okay, well, oh, this person likes Linux Mint too. Okay, so I made a pretty good choice, kind of thing. And I've distro hopped around. I've been on Arch. I've been on Manjaro, Ubuntu, Linux Mint multiple times. Pop! OS. Fedora was actually the longest alternative that I was on. I ran that for nearly 6 months. I also ran Pop! OS, and that was even with NVIDIA graphics too. Which that system got borked to do an update because, long story. And then I had Pop! OS on my ThinkPad T15 laptop that's in the other room. It's my daily driver. Because I was having issues with the kernels and whatnot at the time, so I hopped on Pop! OS to try and get a newer kernel. Didn't know at the time that Mint had a kernel manager and I could get that kernel and make everything happy. You'll learn a lot when you do Linux, and that's really what I'm here to do in this channel. Is I want to spread what I know, and maybe if I can get around to it, do a little bit of roadkill computing. A lot of these computers get hawked to the side, and depending on what you need, you don't need 32 cores and 4 terabytes of RAM, and you just don't. I mean, if you're checking your email, a 4 gig machine. You know, I've got machines over here, well, even just like this one, you know, ThinkPad X230. You know, 8 gigs of RAM. It's an early generation iSeries processor. Works just fine. I got a Chromebook down here as well. I'm one of the few people that were early on into Chrome OS when it first came out. It was like, oh, this is great. It's lightweight, doesn't need a lot of resources, very little storage, it's all cloud. And yeah, it's a privacy nightmare. But I'm not the be all end all on privacy. There is a balance, and I'm happy where I'm at the moment, and I don't need to go any further with it. You know, I use the Google Chrome browser because it works for me. You know, if it starts having issues, stops working the way I intend it to work, then I'll just move to something else. It doesn't hurt my feelings. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I mean, if you guys have comments for the channel, any ideas as to stuff you'd like to see me do, I mean, I've got a couple projects on the back burner at the moment because it's the holidays, and I'm kind of just hoping to, you know, make something out of it, you know. Some of the stuff going on is like building your own server, having a home lab. I never had the opportunity before I moved out and got married to have my own space. This is just my office area in here, and so I have a space out in the garage. You're going to see me out at a lot, and I have space out there to do all kinds of stuff. And it's just kind of one of those things where, like, if I want to spin up a Debian server for a tutorial, I can do that. You know, here at the home, you know, I've got a Synology NAS, which I've been very happy with. I'm not really going to use it long term for anything in particularly special. I'm thinking about getting a separate unit or a separate PC to run to collect all this footage and whatnot, because it's taking up a large amount. But Synology does a great job on the consumer side to just do cool things like backing up my photos, backing up pictures, backing up files off my phone, backing up files off my computer, syncing files between computers. It all works pretty well. I've even got some GitHub projects going. I'd like to kind of do, as I teach myself some coding, because I'd like to know a little bit of Bash. I'd like to know a little bit more about those things to kind of develop my own toolbox, you know. Just a Swiss Army knife, kind of like how Chris Titus Tech has his WinUtil. I want a Linux util. And I just don't know how to do any of that yet, and so I've opened up the repo to kind of teach myself as I go, take scripts from other people, and just kind of build in functionality as we go and just try and figure this whole thing out. So, I don't know. It's neat. I look forward to what the future brings, and if you're all willing to tolerate me for a while, at the very least, if nothing else, even if this goes nowhere, this is an outlet for me. I need outlets. I need more than just, you know, bless my wife. She tolerates a lot that I do, and I appreciate it. And just as a shout out to her, and my brother and best friend who also support me in that and doing all these weird things, including the weird RIT guy at the church, who just watches me do some of these things, and it's just like, man, that just looks like fun. You know, just for him, I want to do some road killing. I want to go on vacation. I've done this before. I'd like to tell tales of it sometime. I've gone on vacation, found a laptop or a desktop at a thrift store while I'm on vacation, bring it back to, you know, our VRBO or the house we're at or the hotel, and just plug it in and try to get it working with as little money as possible. I mean, I posted to Facebook from a laptop dangling off the corner of a table on a power cord that was too short and didn't fit and was loose in the jack, off of a Lubuntu thumb drive to Facebook, that I had bought this computer. That's how much jank I'm willing to put up with. I have high standards for other people, but, you know, for myself, I can get away with a lot. So, if you like the video or you like the channel, let me know in the comments. I'm going to try to keep the Rambling Head videos to a minimum, but, you know, if you like story time or whatnot, we can do some story times or whatnot. I've got a few things. And maybe, you know, if I know a few people who want to come on the channel, maybe we'll just have some go back and forths and whatnot. So, you guys have a good day, have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you guys after break.